Hi, my name is Sloan Whitaker, and I'm 29 years old. I always believed my baby's baptism would be the day my family finally came together. The day old wounds would heal. The church glowed with morning light streaming through the stained glass, and my little boy, Asher, looked perfect in his soft white gown. My husband, Callum, stood beside me, warm and steady, his thumb brushing the back of my hand. For a brief moment, I let myself hope. My parents, Miriam and Douglas, were sitting in the front pew, my sister Lena beside them. Everyone I loved, or had tried to love, was gathered under one roof. But just as the priest finished blessing Asher, my mother stood up. Her voice cut through the air like shattered glass. "Before anyone congratulates Sloan and Callum," she said coldly, "you should all know the truth. Callum isn't Asher's father." A stunned silence fell over the church. My ears rang. I saw heads turn, heard the hiss of whispers starting to spread. Callum's face went pale. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. My chest ached like it was caving in. I looked at my parents, begging silently for them to stop, to take it back. But my father just sat there, stone-faced, like this was justice being served. Something inside me broke. I lifted Asher into my arms, clutching him against me, and walked straight out of the church. The heavy wooden doors slammed shut behind me with a sound that felt final, like they were closing on the life I once had. That was the moment everything changed. I wish I could say that moment in the church was the first time my parents tried to humiliate me, but it wasn't. Growing up in the Whitaker house meant living under constant judgment. My mom, Miriam, had a sharp tongue and a sharper eye. If my hair wasn't brushed just right, or my grades weren't perfect, she'd let me know in front of whoever happened to be standing nearby. My dad, Douglas, wasn't cruel in the loud way my mom was. He was worse. He was quiet, detached. His disappointment came in silence, in the way he wouldn't look at me at dinner if I'd done something wrong. Then there was Lena, my younger sister. She was the golden child, the one who never messed up, never raised her voice, never seemed to get caught doing anything wrong. Mom adored her, Dad praised her. Lena was the star. I was the shadow. One memory still burns in my mind. I was 17, standing on the stage at my school's senior awards ceremony. I'd just won an art scholarship, something I'd worked on for years, and I scanned the audience, looking for them. When I found them, my heart sank. My mom was scrolling through her phone, and my dad was half asleep. Later that night, when I brought the scholarship letter home, Mom barely looked up from the sink. "Art?" she said. "That's not a real career, Sloan. You should have gone for something practical like Lena. She's pre-law." I remember nodding like it didn't matter, but in my room, I cried so hard into my pillow I could barely breathe. That was my whole childhood, trying to be seen and constantly being told I wasn't enough. So when I met Callum, someone who looked at me like I was the whole world, I thought I'd finally found my place. I thought I'd finally built the family I'd been denied all my life. When Callum and I got married, I secretly hoped it would be the moment my parents finally saw me as someone worth respecting. Callum was everything they said they wanted for me. Successful, steady, kind. But it didn't take long for the comments to start. At our wedding reception, Mom leaned over to one of her friends and whispered, "I still don't know what he sees in her." I heard it. I never forgot it. When I got pregnant with Asher, I thought maybe, just maybe, a grandchild would melt the ice around their hearts. I sent them the first ultrasound photo. Mom texted back, "Hope this doesn't ruin your career plans." Every doctor's appointment, every night I spent awake with swollen ankles and back pain, I kept telling myself, "It'll be worth it. They'll come around once he's here." Callum worked long hours, and I stayed up late preparing the nursery, painting soft gray stars on the walls because I wanted Asher to feel like he was born into love, even if that love didn't come from everyone. When Asher was born, I invited my parents to the hospital. They came. Mom barely held him for more than a minute. Dad stood by the window, hands in pockets. "He looks nothing like you," Mom said flatly, handing him back. It was like a seed of doubt she wanted to plant. Not just in me, but in everyone. The months leading up to the baptism were brutal. Every family dinner felt like a test I couldn't pass. Mom would make comments like, "Are you sure Callum's the father? The baby has darker hair than he does." Callum told me to ignore it. "They're just trying to get under your skin," he said. But late at night, I would sit in the rocking chair, holding Asher, wondering why my parents seemed so determined to destroy the one good thing I'd built. By the time the baptism came around, I was running on hope and caffeine, praying they would just behave for one single day. But deep down, I think I knew. I think I knew they wouldn't let me have even this. The baptism should have been a celebration. I remember standing at the altar, holding Asher as the priest poured holy water over his tiny head. For one beautiful moment, I felt calm. The church was quiet. Everyone was smiling, and I thought, maybe finally, my parents will see how happy I am. Then my mother stood up. Her heels clicked against the church floor as she walked forward, her voice cutting through the ceremony like a knife. "Before we go any further," she said, "I think everyone here deserves to know that Callum is not this baby's father." Gasps rippled through the pews. Someone in the back actually muttered, "Oh my God." Callum froze beside me, his jaw tightening. He didn't say a word. He just placed a hand on my shoulder, steadying me. I looked at my parents, praying they would stop. My father simply crossed his arms, his expression unreadable. The whispers started, loud enough that I could hear them. Guests shifting in their seats, exchanging glances. My sister Lena stared down at her lap, refusing to meet my eyes. Something inside me snapped. I clutched Asher against my chest, turned on my heel, and walked down the aisle. Each step echoed like a drumbeat. People moved out of my way, murmuring, staring. The heavy church doors creaked open, and when they slammed shut behind me, the sound was deafening, like a final verdict. Outside, the cold air hit me, but I barely felt it. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just kept walking, Asher's tiny breaths against my collarbone, the only thing tethering me to the earth. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew one thing for certain. I could never go back. That night, after everyone had gone home from the church, I sat on the edge of our bed, rocking Asher while Callum quietly packed a suitcase. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Finally, I said, "We can't stay here. Not near them. Not after this." Callum nodded. He didn't argue, didn't try to convince me otherwise. He just came over, kissed the top of my head and said, "Then let's go." It took a week to put our plan together. We sold what we could, the extra furniture, the old TV, and packed the rest into a rented U-Haul. I left a note taped to my parents' mailbox that said only, "Do not contact me. You've done enough." Then we left town. We ended up in a small coastal city 2 hours away. Our apartment was tiny, just 2 bedrooms and a view of a cracked parking lot. But for the first time in years, I could breathe. The first few weeks were hard. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with panic attacks, convinced my parents would show up at our door. I'd sit on the couch with Asher in my arms and cry silently so I wouldn't wake Callum. But slowly, things began to shift. I found a part-time job at a local art studio. The owner, Renee, was warm and encouraging, and she told me I had real talent. For the first time, I started painting again. Not for school, not for approval, just because it made me feel alive. Callum and I would take Asher to the beach every Sunday. I'd watch him toddle across the sand, his tiny footprints washing away with the tide, and feel a strange sense of peace. One evening, Asher took his very first steps, right there in our little living room. I remember falling to my knees and crying, but this time they were happy tears. Because in that moment, I realized we were building something new, something they couldn't touch. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was living. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care what my parents thought of me. For a while, there was silence. Then the messages started. First, it was a text from Lena. Mom didn't mean to upset you. She just lost control of her emotions. I stared at the screen, my jaw tight. My mother hadn't lost control. She had chosen that exact moment, my son's baptism, to humiliate me. I didn't reply. A few weeks later, my dad called. I let it go to voicemail. Sloan, his voice said, flat as ever. Your mother's not well. She's been crying every night. It's time you come home. I almost laughed when I heard it. They weren't sorry. They just hated that I had finally walked away. Soon after, neighbors from my old town started reaching out on social media. Some sent sympathetic messages, but others accused me of running away because maybe the rumors were true. My parents hadn't just shamed me, they'd planted doubt in everyone else's mind too. One night, Lena showed up at our apartment unannounced. Callum opened the door, surprised, and I felt my stomach drop. Lena sat on our couch, wringing her hands. Mom's been sick, she said. Dad's exhausted. Please, just call them. They miss you. I looked at her, really looked at her. For years, I'd envied her, the perfect daughter, the one they never criticized. But now I saw her for what she was, the messenger, the peacekeeper, the one who benefited from my silence. I can't, I said simply. Lena's eyes filled with tears. You can't mean that. I do. My voice didn't shake this time. When she left, I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart pounding. But not from fear. For the first time, I felt strong. I wasn't going back. Not now. Not ever. Months passed, and the silence from my parents eventually became permanent. At first, I kept waiting for the ache in my chest to fade, but what surprised me was how it slowly transformed into something else: relief. One afternoon, I sat on the porch of our little apartment, watching Asher chase bubbles across the yard while Callum grilled burgers. The sun was setting, and the air smelled like salt water. And I realized I was happy. Not perfect happy, not movie scene happy, but real, grounded, steady happy. The kind that comes from knowing you've built something of your own. I thought about the church that day, about the look on my mother's face when she tore my life apart in front of everyone. For years, I'd believed their love was something I had to earn, by being quiet, by being good, by being less of myself. But leaving taught me something. Their rejection didn't destroy me. It set me free. Now, when I rock Asher to sleep, I whisper to him that he is safe, that he is loved, that no one will ever make him feel like he's not enough, because that cycle ends with me. If there's one thing I want anyone listening to my story to know, it's this. Choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival. And family? Family is not the people who share your blood. Family is the people who show up for you, who protect you, who choose you, even when it's hard. As the last rays of sun dipped below the horizon, Callum came to sit beside me, his arm wrapping around my shoulders. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the girl begging to be loved. I felt like a woman who had finally chosen herself.